So let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Right. Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Scott got it? All right.
It doesn't matter.
Wayne and Scott. Okay. Any discussion at all on the agenda? Otherwise, we'll take a vote here. All in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Agenda approved. Okay, do we have any public comment today?
No.
No. Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to number 5, consent agenda. And can I have a motion here?
I'll make a motion to approve it and asking if we can pull out 5.5 and 5.13 for separate agenda items, please, for discussion.
5.5 and 5.13. Okay, we can pull them out for separate discussion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Second by Carmel. All right, any other discussion? If not, we'll vote. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, consent agenda is approved. Okay, we'll move those down to the business items where actions required. Okay, communication reports. Dan, we're gonna let you go first.
Yeah. Alright, so it was, well, it's kind of exciting, you can all see out there. This morning we officially got our building permit. It's printed off and in the trailer, so we're ready to rock for the 17th when we start abatement and demo in the school and start what we call the Summer Slam, where all the contractors gotta be on the ball to get done for school. So right now, schedule-wise, we're, I would say, a little bit ahead of schedule. We're getting really close to ready for footings in Area F, which is going to be the gym area. So kind of that work Dunick got done this winter kind of gave us a little bit of a step. I thought this would be kind of cool. This is the tower going down. It'll take a couple seconds here. But, so they had to make sure all the workers were clear over there. And all those years that tower stood there, it just took a few seconds. And it's done.
What, did they just pull it down with the guy wires or what?
They loosened them and I think they played the wind and then kept the last one, and then they
Okay.
cut it with just a sawzall. And that it looked really big while you were in the distance, but the day they were taking equipment off of there, I was sitting in the trailer and this guy, I was like, wow, he must be like 15 feet tall because he was almost up to the equipment. But here, those dishes are only about 3 feet. So he was, it just looked funny because from a distance, he looked just huge. So, some perspective, there's a yellow post right there where the guy wire was. That'll be about 10 feet in on the pre-K wing. So that'll all get dug out if it already isn't. Let's see, get to the next.
Okay, so the company who took down the tower or owned the tower, they took it?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was Diamond Tower. And we explored some options, but they were the best ones and they were definitely cheaper and they just knew the tower, they installed it, so. Here we have the soil corrections going on. And so that for now that we're getting into construction, if I get too many details on these updates, just let me know because some of the stuff might bore you. But so early on, the civil engineer took boring samples where they go down about 15 to 20 feet depending, and it tells them what type of soil is there and basically how much you have to strip away. So like what they call junk soil is the topsoil, the black soil, which we don't consider junk. Some of the silty stuff. So that's what they call stripping. So first they strip that away down to a level where we have Braun Intertech doing constant testing. So then they test it and say, all right, you're deep enough here, now you can bring in the sand fill. So they do compression tests. So it was about every foot of sand that comes in, they run their compactors, their steamrollers, compact it down, and then the tester, he just basically sits there all day. When they get to a certain level, he tests it again, and okay, you're good for a new layer. So it's kind of interesting. If you look out, I took this picture, I believe, last Thursday. If you look out there now, they're almost to finished grade, you know, about where the concrete, it'll be about 6 inches low. And then once we get all the footings and everything in, they'll top it off, compact it, and then it's time for concrete. So, and that's really only a few weeks away. So stuff's gonna start happening really fast. Here we removed the chiller, got kind of an early start on that with the weather and the early release. Everyone said, I don't think we need air conditioning. So we were able to move that. That will be up on structure where it'll sit, and it should be hooked up to be cooling by the start of school. So what we'll do is bring in the structural steel just for that area, because the area that it's connected to, the kitchen and the theater, that addition will happen later, but we got temporary, well, not temporary, it's the steel it'll sit on, but then we got temporary bracing just to make sure it gets installed and hooked up, and then everything will just get built to it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. If any of you noticed the crane driving by town or anything last week. I'll go back. So this is a view from the trailer. We have a security camera to watch the gate on site, and also we strategically positioned it so we can watch the theater. I mean, eventually this will just be precast going up the back of the theater. That is storm sewer staged for when we get back out into the parking lot once school's out and utilities come back. But so basically this storm sewer, they already ran this around the north end of the building. Oop, went the wrong way. So this is the view from the other side of the trailer, looking to the west. So that storm sewer that was staged is exactly what's run here, and those are the manholes. And then they also ran it all the way out to the north, as far as they need to go. So that's all done, kind of on the west side of the football field. This is the list of work scopes and the contracted amounts. And if you have any questions, being it was a lump sum bid, we do get a chance to kind of break out the numbers when they put in their schedule of values for billing purposes. But at this point, this is kind of how everything shook out. And I know it was kind of confusing before. Hopefully this kind of explained the trade and which company got it and what they're doing. And I believe that is the contract amount. So all the alternates are included in there.
Does that include the 2 new classrooms that we approved last month, or?
This does,
It
yep.
does, okay.
Yep. So then current budget, I put a slide in here just to show you we're on budget. There are some change events that are going on. So, and I think I have one more slide to kind of explain those. So what a change event is if the architect caught something that they missed, a contractor sends out an RFI, which is a request for information, saying this doesn't look right, this doesn't work real well, or hey, we have a better way we want you to look at and we can save you some money. Or like the state plan review kind of dictated some changes, and that's going to be a change order that I'm going to have to bring forward to you. On the state plan review, there was a firewall that needed to be added all the way around the gym. So I'm estimating it at about $310,000. I'm still waiting on a couple people to respond to the change event with their pricing. But along with that, as you see in the explanation, we have some credits. The value engineering items, we eliminated, we had admixture specified for all of the concrete, which makes it dry quicker. and stronger, but you don't need that on like roof topping and stuff, which we didn't catch in the original design, so we got credits back. So as the specs get dissected in the drawings, this is kind of pretty typical. That firewall was a big one, but we'll be able to explain the pricing. So when we do issue a change event, all the contractors are required to respond to us. And if they have a price change, they're required to give us a breakdown of their pricing, materials, and labor. So for instance, on this firewall, the steel stud and drywall contractor, they were about $210,000. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna dissect this one. So I went through their numbers, their price per square footage compared to their bid, kind of where we had them estimated and what their bid came in at. And they had two columns that were right about $10 a square foot. So then I called them up. I said, you got to go over line item 3 with me. Well, here it's all the work up in the rafters. They have to frame out, so it was a lot of extra framing. And then the labor was the most expensive part that stuck out to me. But then I go, I get it, but explain it to me. And yeah, they got a lot more cutting. They're up in the air. So that's part of my job working for you, is dissecting their pricing. There was another one, the roofer came back with a material, and we said there's other options for material. So then they went back, gave us 3 other options. We ran it by the architect, he approved one of them, and we saved $8,000 just by questioning. He just gave one option. We said something's not right. So just kind of rest assured, we are constantly analyzing any pricing that they give to us and calling them out and looking at other options if it doesn't seem right to us. So just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that. So most of these changes, other than the additional classroom work, which is on there, that came out of the overall budget number. These will all be classified as contingency. So after the credits and the costs, contingency, we're at about $77,000 out of that contingency fund that's set up in the budget. As we get further along and construction gets going and more gets completed, we could feel more comfortable about moving some of that contingency money into some of the other areas like landscaping or playground or technology, whatever areas we kind of discussed with the POC. And we kind of started a list on, we call it enrichment, some different areas where we might be able to spend those funds. But right now, it's not quite that comfortable stage yet. We still have a lot of earthwork in area H, the classroom wings. So there was a question about the water main work. I don't know if you all had a chance to review it, but and please do that as questions come up. I would rather have you throw them at Sherry or myself so we can explain them. I know how towns start talking and people talk, and some of the people on site might have a bad view or bad taste one day and say something, and then it gets all over. Just come to us so we can explain it and analyze it. So I guess the water main work question was, what is it costing? And when I went to Dunix, they said, well, it's a lump sum bid, but let me look at our logs, because they already have this work done all the way down to here. So he was able to peel apart some of the labor. They've had different crews working in different areas, but materials and labor, they're at about $50,000. The reasoning the water main we went this route was the old water main went right under where the addition's gonna go. So it just made sense to not be running extra deep under the footings or through the footings. I sat through it was a pretty boring meeting. It was a bunch of engineers talking about where we should run the water main. And the structural guy didn't want to go in through the footings. Well, then it had to go really deep. And with the theater and precast, the footings are already pretty deep. So along with sanitary and some storm sewer coming out here, it just made sense to move it to the east and run a clear path, because now we have to add fire hydrants. way around the northwest, and then the end here. So we were able to put a valve to the building, so if anything ever happens to the building where you need to shut the water off, the water's still going to those hydrants. Another reason was when Claris City, if and when they do improvements to their water main, which is in their, I think, 2 to 3 year plan, we don't have to tear up this beautiful new parking lot we have on the east. So you guys approved that sand sub base. So imagine having that all in one piece, and then to connect to the city, you gotta tear up your parking lot. Well, that drainage is never gonna be the same. You're gonna have all those patches and stuff susceptible to that. So this was just a perfectly clear path for everything we needed it to be. And it's kind of proactive if the city even does improvements. They got nice, easy connection points with minimal spot to tear up what we did on this project.
Thank you for sharing that. I was the one who asked the question. I've been asked why the district was paying for it versus the city, and Sherry did answer that. It's because it's on our property. Is that correct? Deb?
Yeah, and I think it's
Yeah.
gonna save money, because if the city makes those improvements, they might say, all right, we gotta connect to yours, but we're
Yeah.
tearing up your lot. And
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, sometimes there's agreements,
Yep.
but,
Yep.
so it was, but it was mainly to get away from going under the addition. It just made more sense, and then we didn't wanna cross those sanitary lines coming out, so that was kind of the main deal there. What's next? We had the security package. We had a few firms come and give presentations today. And that'll be door opening and cameras, and it's really cool stuff. It's like Sherry could attest to that, and Carmel and Julie and Jesse, like there's a chance to get the police department involved only when they need to be. Like the technology is really cool for different alerts and just the communication that can go on. You know when doors are opened by who after hours. It's really slick. We have a property meeting to go over the existing properties coming up in June. I don't think the date's been confirmed yet, but that's on the horizon. Like I said, the Summer Slam #1 starts May 17th. And it'll be really going then. The communication with the school's been awesome and with the building inspector, as far as egress on what doors will be available and keeping maps updated and where students might be and the office staff. So it's been a lot of planning, but I think we have a good plan and we'll be able to keep following that. And just kind of areas G and F over there, kind of where I was showing that dirt work. Those will be ready for footings and foundations to start. I think the week of the 17th is when we have Ultra Concrete coming in. So that'll be, once that starts and you start getting structure, some steel will start getting delivered. It's pretty exciting. Other than that, does anyone have any other questions? Or if you come up with questions, please get them to Sherry and then I can explain. I just want you all to be informed as the public comes to you with questions, and there's a lot of stuff going on out there, so.
Say, Dan, just curious, I know we gotta cut some trees down for the fitness center and all of that. Are we tucking all the trees down here on the south side too?
On the south side, I believe, like on the other side of the boulevard, those stay
Okay.
towards the.
That are on the other side of the
towards
curb in
queue.
the driveway there?
Yep, and there may be a few out front that
Well, some have
get
to.
removed, but we do have I think it's like 7, 8, or 9 trees in the
Mhm.
plan. And the landscaping budget, if funds are available, that can grow, or, we don't have the landscaping plan yet out there, but we have a good idea with the benches and what would you call that, the sitting.
The plaza.
The plaza. Let's just
Plaza,
put- yeah.
I think we might put a tree in there, or maybe just a flower bed, and kind of incorporate, the students could probably do that with perennials, so. If
We
there's
used to
no
have a
question.
landscaping class. Is there still a landscaping class?
I think it's a offered an alternative
It
years,
has been
isn't it?
offered for a while, but
Okay.
it'd be fun to get that going now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or anything comes up, please approach us.
I was just gonna add Carmel and Julie, like Dan said, we sat in two hours worth of presentations today on security systems. And I don't know if either of you wanna add anything about it, but it's like Dan said, pretty awesome what they can do for us to
Yeah.
keep kids safe.
Really impressive. It's almost the sky's the limit on what you wanna look at and how, and, yeah, I thought it was impressive,
Right, and we're waiting for pricing on those two,
Yep.
right, Dan?
Yep.
That's the
Down
next
the road a
step.
couple weeks and then can make some decisions on that.
So it was kinda, we went shopping today, we weren't gonna buy, so
Yeah.
you kinda know what your product is gonna be and then you get the pricing. so.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And of course, these companies are all pretty much offering identical services. It's, few things are different, but.
Yeah, Sherry's done a lot of work calling the references, we
Yeah.
made them all give us school districts that they're in, and so it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. It sort of reminds me of door hardware, I mean, it's its own separate world, its own separate world, different planet. All right, Denise, you're up.
Yeah, well, good evening. It's been a busy time of year for community ed as we're finishing and wrapping up the school activities and planning for summer. But some of the highlights from our flyers that were from February to May. Early childhood, we gave 39 activity bags. We didn't have any in-person classes. I think parents have really missed those. But with planning and everything with COVID, we just felt like activity bags would really be the best way to go about reaching those families. Youth enrichment, we had 81 activities, participants in those, adult 84. We had traveling basketball, following all COVID guidelines and so forth. We had 45 kids in that. In karate, we had 40 participants. For summer, that's where a lot of the energy's been spent right now. It seems like there's a lot of excitement that we're able to offer programming this summer. So the youth booklet went out in the middle of April, and we're taking a lot of registrations for that in the youth booklet. I didn't put the whole thing in the packet, because there's quite a bit there. But we have CAMs, of course, all of the summer rec activities, and art classes. The adult flyer came out today. We're gonna do pickleball, doubles tennis, sand volleyball, and some art classes, so that'll be exciting. But just kind of where we're at with summer rec, registrations right now, we have about over 180 kids planning to do summer rec. We have 14 coaches and a director. It will all be in Raymond this year, and that's gonna be kind of a work in progress too, and we are offering shuttle busing from Maynard and Clare City. The only thing that'll be in Clare City is T-ball. And then we're gonna have games on Monday nights for T-ball, and I've picked out 3 nights. I know Deb and Brian are gonna help with that in Raymond, so that'll be nice. We're gonna have color teams and not town teams, so I think that'll be a nice change for families and the kids. Hex Apparel, Mac Hendricks is gonna be donating all our t-shirts. We're still gonna do Rain and Shine. We're offering a lot of scholarships to families, and if you have more than 3 children, the 4th or more is free, to try to help those families be able to afford the summer activities. We're following all COVID guidelines, as we know they're changing constantly. We're gonna take on the contact tracing also as part of our community ed summer program, and we're offering tennis. We're also gonna do ECFE activity bags again in June and July. Night baseball will be happening. We have 3rd and 4th. There's one team, coaches Cameron Mock and Seth Paul will be taking the lead on that. In 5th and 6th grade, we'll have a team, and Joel and Mark will be taking that on. This spring we did an ECFE survey of the families that are in our preschool program, and I'll be sharing those results with the advisory council that we'll be having a meeting here soon. Preschool, we decided we're gonna really try to be more proactive to help the families pay for preschool. So we are, instead of just waiting for families to approach us for scholarship information, in our application, if they checked that they were interested in a scholarship, we are reaching out to those families. We're making it a little bit easier for them to fill out the forms. We're trying to make sure that they know we have sliding fees, so that if they fit within the income guidelines, we can charge less for that and use school readiness dollars for that. And then if we have had some problems in the past with families struggling to pay, we're hoping to have like just a meeting with them to show them all the options to pay for preschool. So we're trying to be a little bit more proactive in that area. The community garden, next to the garage out there, we have 11 plots, 10 people are part of that. God's Garden is a huge help with that, and they have many helpers. And all their produce goes to the food shelf, so that's a nice connection. Facility use, we're starting to have requests to use our facilities again. The Raymond Rockets will be having a full season using the varsity field in Raymond. And the Raymond American Legion, is planning a Memorial Day services on May 31st. So that's nice to see that we're able to offer that again. Other things, I just want to give you an update with the 2180 Foundation. Thank you for those that supported that. We had our huge fundraiser this past Friday. We had an online auction, and we had a drive-through cheeseburger meal, and I would say it was probably the best fundraiser we've had for the 12 years we've been doing it. Right now, just before the dust settles on everything, we're grossing over $16,000 for just our one event. And thanks to that going so well, we're doing a spring funding cycle for teachers and for coaches this spring. So, any questions? Thank you.
Jim isn't here, I guess, huh?
He's not here.
All right. Did he leave us anything to take a look at here?
Pardon me?
Did he leave us anything in the packet here? No, he didn't, or, no? All right, let's skip over him. All right,
He said he'd be here next month
Yep.
too.
What's that?
He said he'd be here next month when the spring sports were done.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions about the State High School League change of guidance and information for spring sports, I've got it all here. If anybody wants to know, I'll just share it. I don't think I need to go through all the pieces of it, but I've got it available if anybody wants to read it.
Okay. All right, then Judd, you're next.
All right, perfect, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I was preparing this report. I think about the end of the year, and it's a time of reflection for me, and so I like to think of this one as my report of gratitude. So you'll notice that the vast majority of it is making sure that I recognize different people for the work they've done. Starting off with Katie Hess and Beth Gustafson for the tremendous work they did in making sure that our MCAs went off without a hitch. We did have a slight hiccup with a little bit of a COVID outbreak that affected us a little bit, but they were able to keep everything on track and adjust schedules and meet the needs of our distance learners and get them in and have some separate times set up for them. And it was just it was really, really awesome to see the work that they were able to put in for that. I wanted to make sure I mentioned Heather Shamla for her work in the online registration for preschool and for kindergarten. And then also to Officers Dave and Sean for their support in working with our fifth graders as they progress through their DARE. And we just had graduation last week, so thanks to them. And I do have that little bit of a longer list at the very end there. And I wanted to make sure that I recognize the teachers for all of the work they put in this year to make sure that everything went as smoothly as it possibly could. They really did a fantastic job supporting the students. And then of course also a big thank you to the parents and for the students for making our jobs worth what we do and making it worth the effort we put into it. So again, I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out those different people and those different groups for supporting all of us and what we do. So thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, Melissa, you're up.
Okay. I have a handout for you here.
I have one. No, thank you, I have one.
You do have it,
Yeah, I have one, yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were bringing me one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. So,
kind of have my report tonight is kind of wrapping up the end of the year here. So, first of all, last week we had orientation for the 7th graders coming in. And that was something we weren't able to do last year because of COVID, so it worked out really well. We divided the incoming 7th graders. We took east on one day and west on another day to make the groups smaller, and then rather take them into the classrooms. We had them in the gym and had the teachers come to them. So they got to pick up their 7th grade schedule, and they got to meet their teachers. And I just wanted to thank Sarah, Jenny, and Laura for organizing the event. The CEO Business Expo was also last week. It was a great success. Students in our inaugural class from McRae, PMS, and RCW showed off their businesses. So it was really fun to see what they had. Brogan Hargis had gourmet popcorn business. Michael Gunnick had a tie-dye business. Amy Arndt had a pet walking, pet sitting business. Hallie Foster had a candle making business. Lizzie Coonan had a babysitting service, and Gracie Becker had a clothing upstyle business. And so they all had just fantastic ideas. And so a lot of work went into this planning for this class. So I mean, I should also thank our 2 facilitators, so Denise and Cheryl, for facilitating the class. And then we had a very active board, and a lot of McRae district participants on the board. So board members from the district included Nate Halkren, Ann from Kay's Naturals, Ben Peterson from the bank, and myself. And looking forward to seeing what they can do with the class next year in the future. So I think it was a great start, and just looking to see the program grow. One thing they're looking at doing is going with Midland Institute. So Midland Institute is kind of like buying into a franchise. So if you buy into this franchise now, into the CEO franchise, it's like getting the playbook. And so it's quite expensive, so it costs $35,000 to get this playbook for the first year, but they'll also fly out here, they'll help you get things going, they'll troubleshoot with your facilitators, and that's the direction that the CEO board decided to go. They're also entertaining the idea of inviting CMCS into this group as well, and so talks are in motion right now with CMCS. Seniors' last day is this Wednesday. We're holding an awards program at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to have our seniors come into the gym. Usually this would be an all-school assembly, but again, being mindful of all things with our COVID protocol, we'll put it on YouTube, and so parents and all of our students will be watching it in-house. This is where we'll be recognizing our seniors for all the honor cords that they've won, or earned, I should say, any past scholarships they have received that weren't recognized as Lion Senior Supper, and then recognizing what college every student is going to be attending. Back again, we're excited to have this back. We're going to be able to go to East and West in our caps and gowns, so we have that scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. We're going to be outside again, so to try to be more COVID friendly, and our seniors are looking forward to that, wearing their caps and gowns and arriving at East and West Elementary to be congratulated and greeted by the elementary students and the staff. Had some changes for graduation, thanks to Governor Walz, which makes all of us very happy. Now if it doesn't rain on Friday, we'll be even happier. So everybody hope for no rain on Friday night. So under Governor Walz's new guidance, we do not need to wear masks if we're under 500 people. So we have a sign up in the office right now. We started out with every graduate being able to have 10 guests. And now today at noon, some of people didn't have 10 guests, so we have room. So we've opened it up now. So some students on a first come, first served basis, if they want to have more than 10 guests, they can. And we're going to try to keep the number in the 450-ish range, so we can be careful to not go over 500. So, we got that planned. If we should have to move inside, we're looking into a couple options. Our initial idea was to, because then you have to follow the capacity of your gym space, which means that we can't fit them all. But we're looking into maybe offering overflow seating in the cafeteria, if we would have to, and put a monitor in there so you could have, just like some churches do at funerals, if you've got a smaller church or whatever, we'll just have to split the people. Grand March update. Again, no mask will be required for Grand March as long as we can keep it under 500. Everyone should socially distance to the extent possible. One thing new this year is that in order to try to get everybody to social distance, we decided to have the Grand March. I have a parade in front of the Grand March, so it would go through the whole Clear City Prairie Fest route, and the hope is that people will grab their lawn chairs and sit along the parade route, and that way it won't overpack the park. And when we heard that, we could be under 500 in the park, we thought, well, maybe we'll just go with the park. But interestingly enough, the students were excited about the parade. They want to keep the parade. So we're gonna have the parade and the park. So that's what our plan is for that. They still say for us to be careful about a lot of paper handling and that kind of thing. So we're gonna post a QR code on our website for people to, especially if you're on the parade route, if you pull it up on your phone, you'll get the program, and we'll have everybody lined up in order so they'll know all the couples. So we have that out there. And we want to thank the parents for taking over the formal audit Lone Star, which begins at 6:45. So that's not a school-sponsored event, that was taken on by the parents. Summer school is organized and underway. I put the nitty-gritty on the front page there. And if you want to flip it over, you can see the course offerings that we have. So, and I should back up and point out that we're offering this not only for credit recovery, but also for enrichment. And so I know when I sent out the letter to parents today, I got a couple responses initially and said, well, why did my child get this? My child passed all their classes. So we do have some offerings in here that are enriching, and so if people wanted to have their student have an enrichment opportunity, they could. And that's why we sent it to everybody. But of the homework, or of the offerings, homework completion would be those students that are just tapping the door of passing. 65 is passing, they're sitting at a 60. If they could turn in a couple assignments, they're gonna pass. So that option, we're gonna have paras working with those students to get them to passing. And then once the students have completed what the para thinks is a quality amount of work, they're gonna turn it to the classroom teacher to grade it, and then the student earns the passing grade and is done. Essentials of geometry and essentials of algebra are two different classes that we're gonna offer for students who have failed either one semester or the other. So we're gonna try to, in both of those classes, pick up what are the nuts and bolts, what is the most essential pieces of geometry or algebra 1 that we need to know. And they can earn half a credit for that. If they fail the whole year, they'll still have to finish that other half when they come back, but at least they've got a good background of the basics in summer school that we would give them credit for. An ag elective, this could be used for credit recovery or an enrichment course. And I just was able to pull up Mr. Johnson's course description. And it's an interesting course. It's hands-on plant science. And it's going to focus on plant science and technology related to plant science. So they're going to cover like hydroponics, plant propagation, pruning, mulching, vertical gardening, plastic mulching, drip irrigation, greenhouse management, fertilizer analysis, soil structure. I mean, that just sounds fascinating to me, all the things that they're going to do. So that's a really great opportunity that anybody could access. And then lastly, we have a Spanish enrichment opportunity. And Mrs. Zondervan is really excited about this course. She is pitching it as in addition, to our students that are really into Spanish, we do a lot of the conversational piece and the writing piece, but she would like to dive deeper into the cultural piece. So what she's envisioning with this class is more of the taking some field trips, like visiting, a Mexican grocery store, maybe cooking some Mexican food. She has her students read smaller novels in class, so she's talked about reading a Spanish novel and doing kind of like a book club study. And so again, I think that's a fantastic enrichment opportunity for students that might want to do that. So, and then I've listed below the staff that has volunteered to be a part of our summer school staff. So, anybody have any questions for me?
I don't think
Some-
Melissa, oh, go ahead.
Oh, the summer school grades. Is that for like the 7th graders going into 8th grade? And then the 11th into the 12th?
It's the year, no, it's the year they completed, so this year's current 8th through 11th graders.
Okay.
Yep. That's a good question, I was wondering how to clarify that.
Because I'm just trying to figure it out, because it seems like they're missing a year or two.
Well, the seniors
Between
have
them.
graduated, and so the 7th graders are the only ones that we don't have a class for currently.
Okay. Yeah, and then the 6th grade and the elementary, they don't have anything for them either.
The elementary has maybe a summer school plan, I can't speak for Joe.
So, I'm glad you brought that up. So, now, I'll call it registration very loosely in terms. There were about approximately 60 individuals who expressed interest, and by individuals I mean students, not families. And so far I did put out a commitment form to families with a response of last Friday. Only got about a third of those original those originally interested have committed up to this point. So there's a chance I'll probably end up opening it up for those 6th graders
Okay.
that are leaving, so we can get more bodies in. I mean, it's not trying to deny them, it's just the numbers that we originally had made it so that to balance out the classes. So there's a really good chance. So look for some more
Okay.
information coming up on that. It might not be at the end of this week, but I'm gonna keep working through the summer, and we've got until the beginning of June, so we'll get that out.
Sounds good, thank you.
Debbie, did you have a
That was
question?
my question, I was gonna see if we had something for our elementary children, so.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Well, I have one more question. So snacks will be provided, but not lunch.
Right, we talked about that and decided since they're only there from 8 until noon, that we would just provide a snack. And that's what we've been doing for Monday school, and it's worked. And so the snack will be like what we serve for Second Chance Breakfast here. So it will be a grab and go type of offering. Yeah.
Is there any way that we could use some COVID funds to provide something like that, or?
The COVID funds will provide that.
The noon meal too, I was thinking, just, by the time they get home, it might be 1 o'clock, or, just.
We
a
could
thought.
certainly survey the students and see if that was an interest to
Yeah.
them, and try to work something out with our cooks. I know our cooks are scrambling a little bit with kind of how it would work to feed people in the summertime, but it's not to say it can't work. So I will see what the interest is,
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
So are most of these kids being brought in by their parents or driving in themselves?
Well, it will be interesting to see, because when we ran Monday school, we initially thought transportation was a barrier, so we offered transportation, and we ended up with only 5 students taking transportation. But people wanted to do it online, but the feedback I received from the ones running the Monday school was that the online was just not successful. And so in this summer school proposal we put in there is no online option. And so I'm thinking our transportation numbers are gonna be a lot higher, because if there's not an online option, people are gonna need to be picked up.
You just don't know what those numbers are yet, though.
No,
Yeah.
no.
All right, there's no more questions for Melissa, then Sherry.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate too that everything's dependent on the availability of staff. And I know that one of Julie's concerns was not having staff among the kitchen staff, so. But we're moving along. You can see my report here. I just wanted to highlight number 4. We've, as Dan was pointing out, the water main work. We've had to change parking for students and for staff, sometimes by the day. And I just want to commend our student drivers for being patient, for being kind, respectful. I've been out there almost every day. Kim sometimes subs in for me, and Melissa, and Judd's been out there, and it's really been fun to get to know the kids better as they drive by in their vehicles and talk with them, greet them in the morning and say goodbye in the afternoon, and they've just been incredible. Our students are just incredible. Number 5, legislative work. I think we hear this over and over and over. The House is at 2% and 2%, and the Senate doesn't have really anything out there. Related to this, we started negotiating with the teachers, and we really can't go any further than some language issues, because we just don't know what our revenue is going to be from the state. There's lots, 80 I think I mentioned here, unfunded mandates. And 25 expected changes to Pellsby rules. Those are the teacher hiring, and I just think this is a mess when they have to be done a week from today. They have to be done, and when there's House File 1065 that is just loaded with educational items. And I don't see all this work being done in 1 week. I just don't see it happening. So we're kind of at a standstill until we start finding out what those policies are going to be, what are those mandates going to be, how are we going to pay for them. What about Pellsby changes? That is huge to have 25 new changes to teacher licensing. So I try to keep you apprised on that, but those are some of the things that just are hanging out there. Also in your packet, Debbie, I bet you're familiar with First Children's Finance, and you probably even know Jessica Beyer.
Yep.
This is the 3rd month that I've given you information on child care. I got this the very next day after we talked at the last meeting. I think it was the very next day.
Yeah, I didn't have that in the packet. I guess I missed it in the basket.
Oh,
Do you want me to
okay.
make copies for everybody?
I can pass this
Just
around.
give us a verbal.
Thank you.
Yep.
So here we go. We
No
have
worries.
Southwest Minnesota Child Care Needs Summary by counties. And I'm going to hit on our 3 communities. Child care need, and this one says children under 5. In Clara City, we have a negative 36. Maynard has a negative 59. And Raymond is a negative 28. Those are big numbers. Those are big numbers. And I just thought, wow, this is great that I have this right when I got it to share with you. I'll have it here available if you want to look up any other towns in southwestern Minnesota. There are a small handful that don't seem to have child care issues, but these numbers are huge. And Debbie, does that include infants and toddlers?
Yes.
So, again, and you maybe are sick of me saying this, but those 2 rooms you approved last month, somebody even was talking to me afterwards and said, wouldn't it be cool if there could be a sidewalk right up to those 2 rooms there, and people could just drop their kids off right there and just walk into that part of the building? Surprised, Dan, I haven't told you that. But I think it'd be a great service. I think it'd be a great service. It doesn't take care of babies and infants, like I say, but it takes the load off of parents that need to get to work at 7 that could maybe drop a 4-year-old off, or 5 or 6 or 7-year-old off. So just continue to provide information on child care needs. Additionally, number 7 in my report, you asked me in January when Marilyn Losey gave her resignation to bring it back to you in May. And so you could extend her well wishes in her retirement. She took advantage of the contract language that says if you let us know in January, which is awesome, because then we can start doing our planning. There's a financial stipend for that, so I just put this back on as, because you asked me to.
Okay, that's it for you, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry? And I guess we've got Marilyn Lozey retiring. We've got Lyle Boyk, is it Boyk? Okay, can't even read my own writing. From the custodial staff, and I believe a para, huh? Let's see,
Carol Swing.
Banky, yes. Is it Kathy?
Carol.
Yeah, okay, so.
Carol Swing.
Carol, Kathy? Okay. Anyway, thank you to them for all their service they've done for the district, and I hope they enjoy their retirement. Okay, number 7, we don't have any discussion items, it looks like, that need action. Oh, wait, committee reports. We don't have any committee reports, do we?
Well, you guys
Other
kinda
than-
joined in on the security.
That would be the only one. Yeah.
And we don't really have an update with negotiations.
No, Sherry pretty much gave that, so.
Yeah, okay.
So can I ask, at your building committee meeting, there was a meeting with the special ed teachers? Was any information shared about what their request was?
Today we just.
Today, we didn't have a meeting.
Oh,
Today- No,
okay.
we had a meeting today with the security.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
just a presentation on the security.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just give an update on that at the open discussion period? On the
An
agenda?
update on what, the security?
On a meeting with the special ed teachers.
Oh, are you asking for a meeting with the special ed teachers?
No, there was a meeting with the special ed teachers in regards to the facility, and so I just assumed that that would probably go to your committee, so.
Oh, no, we weren't part of that meeting. So does somebody want to give a report on it?
I just thought if Kim wanted to share what was talked about and some of the options that came up and what some of their thoughts were, and
Yeah, I met with them just to show them the floor plan and everything, and they don't believe they have enough room. So they were asking if they could have the title room was one option. They talked about making the commons area in the special ed suite in the 1st through 5th grade section more of a hallway so that the rooms could be bigger. They, in the middle school, there's a smaller room that's, thought about as being special ed, and they wanted to take out a wall to expand into an office that's adjacent to it to make it big enough, or bigger. Possibly, one thing they thought that maybe they could have one of the new pre-K rooms to give them more space. I think that's pretty much it, right?
yeah.
Yeah, cause I had shared with Sherry and admin a little bit, but that wasn't on the agenda for it was just a security presentation meeting today, so.
And when was this meeting, recently?
Yeah, it was, last Thursday morning.
They shared numbers and their concerns that their classroom sizes are smaller than they have now, but yet they've got 40 kids in a classroom that's smaller at some different points during the day than the size that they have right now, so they were concerned about the size. We talked about change orders, we talked about, while the blueprints are there, there's still time to move walls around, so I thank them I was asked to be part of that meeting, and whatnot, and they came up with solutions and also shared what their needs were and whatnot, and we're looking for some response back then as to the 5 different solutions that they threw out there, and what the committee might think of those to make some changes, so.
So the special ed classrooms will have 40 kids in there at one time?
Yes,
In one classroom?
Yes.
Not broke out into different areas?
no.
Is that how it should be?
Well, that's how it is right now. Nancy Toma shared that that's how it is in her classroom setting right now. There are times that she has 40 children in there.
Okay, I guess I've been under the understanding that it's more of breakout areas to have smaller groups working together in the different areas.
They were very clear that obviously, not everybody is the expert in special ed, but they are. And the small group areas are not okay for special ed children who maybe get distracted easy, have behaviors. All of the staff that attended that meeting were very concerned about the number of doors because of the behaviors and the kids that are runners and the distractions that happen as people go in and out of the individual rooms into that big, large room area back and forth. There were 4 special ed teachers there, and they all had the same concerns, So I thought now's a good time to bring it up and just talk about it and what changes could be made, because they just didn't feel that their voice was heard before, so.
So are they wanting to meet with the POC committee to go over this?
You would have to
Over
ask them. They felt that they followed the chain of command and their concerns were not listened to, so that's why they asked me to be part of that meeting. So Kim and I sat down, we visited, Kim showed blueprints, and we talked about different options and possible solutions, so.
Okay, because as a member of the POC committee, and we spent a lot of time on going over that special ed area and working with the consultant and other people who were part of the special ed team at that time, and settled on that plan as being something that was very workable and is often used in many, many schools as a workable solution that's successful. So, and we have intentionally built into the plan flexibility so that some rooms that are labeled for one purpose might ultimately end up for another purpose, because we haven't been in the building yet and we don't know exactly how we're going to use it. So until we get in that building and be able to function in that space, I think we're kind of just guessing how it might work or should work, and just because we do something one particular way now doesn't necessarily mean that's the way we should do it. We've been working with scenario where we're cobbling together a special ed department in rooms that were never intended for that. So that's kind of impacting how things are working. So now we have an opportunity to start fresh and create a system that works, but we're not going to know that till we get in there. And granted, I think in this entire building, as we move into it, over the course of a year or two of using it, we're going to have to tweak things and move things around and find out what really works for us. So that's why we're wanting to, keep in mind that there's flexibility built into the plan so that we can make that work, because you never really know how you're going to use a building till you're actually in it. And then of course, we don't know from year to year how many students we're going to have and that kind of thing too. So we wanted the building to be as flexible as it could possibly be.
Yeah, and the consultants that we visited with and talked to at our meetings have looked at our plan and what we have, and they felt it's very adequate for our needs.
I'm just saying that the staff right now want to be proactive about it. They are the experts. Our staff are the experts, not the consultants. They know how many children they have, and they're saying from the get-go, they don't have enough space. With what you've got lined out for special ed, they do not have enough space. That's what they're saying. So I just am asking that they could be listened to. That's all.
Well, if they want to, somebody wants to come forward and request a meeting with the POC or something, I guess that would be the next step, if that's what they want to do.
I would hope that the POC could reach out to them, because they followed the chain of command. They have gone and they have talked and talked and talked about it, and nobody's doing anything. Can we not extend a hand and reach out to them to say, hey, we hear you got some concerns, let's sit down and talk about it, and let's figure it out. So that's all they're asking for.
Who is the contact person?
I would get a hold of Nancy Thoma.
Well, we'll have to. I don't think at this point in time, the way the plans are and where we are in the process, that we can redesign and rebid the special ed or any area in the building.
I think we can always do change orders, right, Dan?
Water under the bridge. So, I don't know how much of that is feasible, other than, like I said, using the flexibility that's already been built into the building to address some of these issues.
But you won't know unless you visit with them, and I think we can do change orders, correct?
Well, and I know that space has already been changed a couple times since construction documents were approved, so with some feedback.
Right.
But if we needed to have another meeting to go over that.
Well, and the actual floor plan has been approved by the board within the budget that we have.
Well, it looks like we've got some extra funds available. All they want to make sure we get it right from the get-go and not have to get in there and go, oh shoot, this is not working for us. We told you up front it's not gonna work for us. So let's just take a look at it on a proactive basis and go visit with them now. Now's the time to do it. So that's basically what we talked about, and I guess I'll leave it in your hands then, so.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, if not, I guess we're on number 8, business items. And we've got to approve the fiscal year 2022 original budget and then address 5.5 and 5.13 from the consent agenda. So, is there a motion on approving the budget?
So moved.
Wayne, second, anyone?
Second.
Tate? All right, any discussion? Kim, I think you always have to put this together without having all the information you need.
This one's really rough, so just be aware it's gonna change quite a bit. And I see I missed the expenditure from the expenditure side, didn't get in the middle section. It's in the lower section, but it's not, whatever. It's gonna, it'll change.
It's a projection, right?
Oh,
One of
goodness.
the things about working in budgets is you're working concomitantly in multiple years. And so, right now, when it's time to wrap up the budget of the budget year we're in, it's starting the next budget for the next year and making sure that this one's wrapping up okay and giving the best information you can with no information from the legislature. So it's a work in progress, isn't it, Kim?
Yeah.
Well, we still don't know how a lot of those federal funds are gonna be distributed too.
Right.
So, all right. Well, I'll do the best we can, I guess. Any other discussion on that budget? All right, I guess we'll vote on that. All in favor of approving the fiscal year 2022 budget as it is temporarily down, null, let's say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. All right, that motion passes.
Thanks. It just has to be approved by June 30th. We have to have a budget.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, now we have to address those issues that have been set aside. Okay, 5.5, approve elementary principal contract for Mitch Kent.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Okay, there's a second?
Second.
Okay. Wayne and Scott. Okay, discussion?
I asked that that be pulled out. I just want to share my concerns about the process that was followed. I have absolutely nothing against the two individuals whatsoever. I just don't feel that the process that was followed was appropriate. Minnesota statute, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, does say that the school board does hiring, is that correct? That's what you
The
stated in
school
your
board
email to me?
hires the superintendent. And the superintendent recommends the hiring of the principal to the school board for approval.
Correct.
But the school board is not in charge of actually hiring the principals or the teachers.
Or
The
firing.
teachers are hired by the
Right.
principals.
But we approved the recommendation, correct?
Mhm.
I guess I thought that after it was emailed to the staff and after it went out to the paper, and now we're approving the recommendation, it seems like the cart was put before the horse. And if the school district is an equal opportunity employer, I absolutely understand the inherent right to hire the best candidate. But how do we know that unless we've opened up the position? And according to equal opportunity, that means opening it up especially to women and minorities. And because we did not have an application process, because we did not go through the interview process, I don't believe that we follow good practice. That is my concern. I just needed to have that be said at the meeting, so.
So I called MSBA prior to when I found out Melissa took another job. And Gary Lee said, it's your inherent managerial right, go for it. Then when, before this meeting, I called him again and I said, okay, we went for it. Yes, you can do this. You can do this. That's what I know.
That we can hire the best person or that, and not do
I
the
can
process?
move people around in the district. We do it all the time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just have to say, I agree with you, Deb, but I also follow how it's done, and we've hired Sherry to do her work, and we'll respect her work with that.
I think with hiring from within, in this case, these people have been with us in the district for a number of years. We've been able to see their work ethic, their work skills. If Sherry recognizes leadership ability and a skill set here, after working with these two individuals, that is, I respect her judgment on that in this case, and am willing to approve the selections that she's made. Anyone else? Okay, we'll take a vote. Those in favor of approving the elementary principal contract for Mitch Kent, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion is approved. Motion carries, I should say. Okay, number 513, approve high school principal contract for Judd Wheatley.
I'll make a motion to approve the high school contract with Judd Wheatley.
Okay, Scott, is there a second?
Second.
Tate. All right, discussion on that? All right. Again, I think that in this scenario, hiring from within is going to be a bit of an advantage for us. Coming into a new building and having to make this transition, and working with people who are familiar with our students and the system here is probably a good fit for us right now. It's going to be some growing pains and bumps in the road as we make this transition, so I'm confident we got we've got good people in place to do this. So, anything else?
Again, I would say it's not against the individual, it's the process.
All right, let's take our vote then if there's no more comment. Those in favor of approving high school principal contract for Judd Wheatley, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right, motion carries. And that looks like it. I guess we're done. I want to mention too, the West Parents Club donation of $15,000 for that playground equipment was very nice. So did they have a particular interest where they wanted the money to be used, or is it just for the playground in general?
Yeah, one of the things I want to do is involve students, and they know that I want to involve students, and so they're not sure which playground they want the money to go toward, because we'll have two playgrounds and a recreational area for older kids. So they'll have kids that will use all the playgrounds, so they just said they'll have more money before the time comes for the playground, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, okay. Anything else? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wayne, second anyone?
Second.
By Carmel, and it is 7:10. Thank you.